The office worker runs for his life, moving faster than he'd have once thought possible down a dark concrete hall filled with exposed pipes, dripping with mysterious liquids, and crawling with alien insects. Behind him, the sounds of barking echo. Not the barking of a dog, of course. More like a human throat doing a particularly unsettling impression of a barking dog. He looks over his shoulder, his heart pounding, his forehead drenched with cold sweat. He can see them gaining on him, a pack of 3 unthinkable monsters, charging, canine-like creatures, in shape at least, fast and hungry. But again, these aren't dogs. They're hounds, one of the countless varieties of horrific entities known to populate the extra-dimensional nightmare known as the Backrooms. Perhaps the hounds were once human. They certainly look like human beings contorted and transformed into horrible dog-like shapes, but they aren't human now. They're vicious monsters, and they're hot on the poor office worker's heels. He runs, despite the knowledge that the creatures behind him have more speed and stamina than he ever could. But as he runs, he notices that this hallway, it's too long, it's too winding. Is he in a warehouse or some kind of factory building? It's like the hallway just goes on forever and ever and ever. Nothing in this horrible nightmare of a place seems to make any kind of sense. It's like being trapped in a bad dream that never ends. Suddenly, the wall seems to appear right in front of him, a blockade to his chances of escape, as though the hallway itself is spitefully responding to his thoughts. He crashes up against the wall and screams in terror as the hounds, who didn't slow down for a second, bare their saliva-coated fangs and pounce toward him. What's happening here? Why is an office worker being attacked by interdimensional abominations? And what are these mysterious back rooms? And how does one access them? To find out, we need to rewind the clock, back to the moment the office worker no-clipped. It's an average day at work. Data entry in a vast, anonymous cubicle farm. His bosses don't care about him, and he hasn't worked here long enough to make any real friends among his coworkers. The only thing that makes today different from any of the others is that, for some reason, he feels a little queasy. Was it the cheap coffee from the break room, or maybe something he ate? Either way, he decides to step outside to the desolate space behind the office to take in a few breaths of fresh air. But while he's out there, he notices something extraordinary. An abandoned chair, the kind of basic wood and metal one you can probably find behind the desks of almost every high school in America. But something about it is just wrong. It seems almost glitched, with too many legs and too many backs, all sticking out at random angles. He can't make any sense of it. It seems like such a truly unnatural thing to see in real life. He can't help but approach and touch it, just to somehow confirm it's real. The second his hand touches the chair, though, something fantastical and terrifying happens. In a flash of light lasting only a fraction of an instant, the office worker is no longer standing in the grimy alleyway behind his office. Instead, he's in the middle of an unfamiliar place, a strange room, decked out with this sickening yellow wallpaper, the damp, foul-smelling carpet squelching underneath his shoes. There's an electrical hum in the air, presumably coming from all those old lights up above. But despite the fact that nothing is overtly threatening about this room, the very fact that he's here, against all logic, fills him with a deep, almost primal terror. This isn't his world anymore. And while the office worker doesn't have the tools to know it, I can tell you that he no-clipped into level 0 of the Backrooms, the infamous tutorial level. Though naturally, the office worker gravitates towards a more logical reason for everything that's happened, he's gone completely and utterly insane. Like a rat trapped in a maze, the office worker begins to search through this horrifying new environment. He runs through the honeycomb of seemingly identical yellow hallways, as that terrible buzzing noise seems to worm its way deeper and deeper into his addled brain. He keeps thinking he sees something out of the corner of his eye, but when he turns to look, it's gone without a trace. Once or twice, he could swear he sees something moving in the patterns of the wall. For terrifying moments of delirium, it looks like the walls are crawling with chittering insects. Vile yellow cockroaches, too big and with too many legs to be something from the planet Earth. Paranoid, anxious, and terribly afraid, he keeps running. Yet the maze seems to go on forever. It's impossible. How could any structure possibly be this big? He can't tell if he's running for minutes, hours, days, or weeks. All time seems to run into itself. His wristwatch doesn't work here, but he knows he's getting desperate, hungrier, thirstier, more mentally frayed. If he hadn't lost his mind before he came here, he's truly lost it now. He just keeps madly running, hoping somewhere in all this yellow nonsense, he'll find a door, a window, some way out of this terrible place. Instead, escape comes when he catches his foot on a snag in the carpet and falls forward. Time slows down. He closes his eyes and braces to experience that soggy, foul-smelling carpet hitting him in the face. But no, he feels cold concrete against his cheek. When he opens his eyes, he's in a different place. A cold, murky industrial building, all brutalist concrete with exposed pipes snaking along the walls. He doesn't have the words to know this, but he's reached level 1 of the Backrooms, also known as the habitable zone. Perhaps you think this sounds nice, but it's worth remembering. That doesn't mean that this level is only habitable to human beings. None of this makes sense to the office worker, but he's crazed and desperate enough now that he's starting to take this new insanity in stride. He sees a nearby wooden crate labeled supplies, and his aching stomach does the thinking for him. He forces his twitching fingers underneath the lid and levers it open, only to find that the inside is filled with packing peanuts and a number of strange metal bottles, each one labeled almond water. Thankfully, he doesn't have a nut allergy, so he unscrews one of the bottles and drinks deeply. It's the most delicious thing he's ever tasted. It seems to replenish not only his thirst and his hunger, but also some of his peace of mind. Almond water, you see, is a resource that is as abundant as it is vital across the Backrooms. It's the most common and universal form of nourishment, which also provides healing and mental health benefits, as well as warding off some creatures that you definitely prefer to keep at arm's reach. The office worker wisely grabs another one of the bottles and sticks it in his pocket for later. He may not fully understand what's going on, but he knows he needs to get out of here. That's at least one goal that can keep his racing mind in place. But as he travels deeper, he begins to encounter other life forms, and these life forms are often eager to deprive the unfortunate office worker of his own life. As he walks down a long industrial hallway, he hears a faint scratching sound on the other side. He places his ear to the wall, wondering if that sound could be another human being, but something deep in his bones tells him to step away immediately. Fractions of a second later, a long gray arm phases through the wall, terminating in 3 flailing claws. A monster! He screams and runs in the opposite direction as the arm reaches for him, trying to drag him back through the wall to some horrible fate. These insidious ambush predators are known as dullers, and they're an excellent reason not to hug too closely to the walls when sneaking through the back rooms. If a duller is waiting on the other side, and you don't keep your wits about you, it'll no-clip its arm through the solid surface and drag you to an uncertain doom. Lucky for the office worker, that fate doesn't befall him. Instead, he keeps running, finding his way down another long, twisting hallway, avoiding the walls at all costs. Soon he reaches a slightly more open area, somewhat like an underground level of a multi-level parking complex, partially shrouded in a thin, white mist. To his immense relief, he sees another human standing in the middle of the area, slouched slightly and facing away from him. After being transported out of his world, twice seemingly, and nearly being grabbed by an impossible monster, the office worker is just eager to see another member of his own species. Or so he thinks, anyway. The office worker runs in, calling out, and places his hand on the stranger's shoulder, but as soon as he does so, he feels an almost animal urge to jerk his hand away. Its body, it was so cold, so terribly unnaturally cold. And as the thing that he'd once thought was a person turned around and looked at him, he felt that same cold deep in his chest. The skin of the person's face doesn't fit. It looks old and yellowish, rotten even, like a poorly fitting Halloween mask. The man's eyes are blank, almost glowing in the gloom of the area. But the second it registers the presence of the office worker, there's a terrible, sickly glint in its eye, something unmistakable, as the way that a ravenous predator sizes up its prey. New skin. As the man backs away, the creature begins shambling toward him. It reaches up and grabs hold of its rotten skin mask, pulling it away to reveal a doughy, white, inhuman face underneath, its uneven mouth showing off rows of needle-sharp teeth. What the office worker didn't know, but could probably have guessed, was that this creature is known as a skin stealer. And I'll give you 3 guesses as to what this skin stealer wants to do with this unfortunate office worker if it got its hands on him. The fear turns the office worker around and sends him running into the distance, weaving back through corridors and halls until he finds himself in a bleak-looking storage area. He stops for a moment to catch his breath, and this is where he runs into the hounds. They're feeding on the corpse of what might be another unlucky explorer when he first finds them. The second that he makes a sound in their presence, they turn and face him. These ruthless and opportunistic predators will happily abandon an old kill for a chance at some fresher meat. Of course, as you already know, the office worker runs for his life as the hounds give chase. He tries valiantly, but gets trapped, just like so many others, as the hounds zero in. They pounce, ready to eat the unlucky office worker alive, until they're cut off by the staccato rat-a-tat-tat of machine guns. Bullets pepper the hounds, killing them in midair, and causing their bodies to collapse limply to the ground at the office worker's feet. His life has been saved. He looks up and sees his rescuers. 3 men, humans, real humans this time, each armed with a machine gun and wearing cobbled-together tactical armor. They're 3 members of an organization known as the Major Explorer Group, or MEG. Think of them as the Backrooms equivalent of the SCP Foundation, a large and highly organized group of humans devoted to cataloging any and all information about the Backrooms and its many features and entities, while protecting their fellow human beings from falling victim to them. And in the first stroke of luck that the office worker has experienced since he touched that godforsaken glitched chair and teleported into the back rooms, Level 1 just so happened to be the location of the MEG Base Alpha, one of their largest bases in the infinitely layered extra-dimensional horror show that is the back rooms as a whole. After accepting all his tearful thank yous, the 3 MEG soldiers begin leading the office worker back towards Base Alpha. He'll be much safer there, they tell him, surrounded by other heavily armed humans. They have weapons, supplies, safe places to sleep, and of course, plenty of almond water to drink. This is when the office worker, encouraged by all these positive developments, makes the rookie mistake of asking the MEG soldiers if they know a way out of the back rooms once and for all. His blood runs cold when he receives their answer. There is no way out. Once you're in the back rooms, you're stuck there forever. There's no way to escape. All you can do is either stay put and hope to survive, or keep descending levels until you're either killed by an entity or find a place habitable enough to hole up. The options are few and bleak. Of course, the office worker doesn't want to believe this. As he follows the trio of grim soldiers, he thinks that maybe their time here has just caused them to give up hope. There has to be a way out of here. He just needs to keep searching until he finds it. Suddenly, the 3 soldiers come to a halt. They've passed into another warehouse area by now, filled with crates and more exposed pipes. It takes the office worker a second to even notice what's caused the soldiers to stop, and that's when he sees the little girl in the black dress, with long black hair covering her face, standing right in front of them. That's also when the office worker notices that these soldiers haven't just stopped to observe, they're frozen in wide-eyed terror. All from just a little girl? But then the little girl looks up, and the office worker lets out an involuntary terrified scream. The little girl has no face, just a blank, smooth surface, and in her tiny hand, she's clutching a rusty, serrated blade. That would be frightening enough in and of itself, but the office worker soon realizes why these 3 MEG soldiers are really so afraid. Suddenly, more of these faceless children start popping up from every angle. They enter from the halls, they pop up from behind the crates and from underexposed pipes. All of them are carrying weapons, knives, hammers, meat hooks, scissors, and some even have shards of broken glass. These are child facelings, another common hostile entity that calls many of the Backrooms levels their homes. Their adult counterparts are harmless. They're just regular humans without faces. But child facelings are vicious, unpredictable, and highly sadistic. They converge on the MEG soldiers before any of them can even discharge their weapons, and begin horribly murdering each and every one of them. All the office worker can do is run, and hope that they don't get him too. But as soon as they notice him fleeing, some of the blade-wielding child facelings immediately give chase. But on the way out into the hall, the office worker makes another small, seemingly insignificant choice that once again changes the course of his life. With his legs threatening to give way from the fear he's been experiencing, the office worker steadies himself against a wall. It meant nothing to him at the time, but this wall is slightly darker than the other ones around it. Walls that are darker than others in abandoned areas, much like glitched chairs, are a common method of no-clipping into or through the back rooms. In a flash, that tiny, innocuous action saves the office worker from the clutches of the sadistic child facelings and transports him to Level 2, Pipe Dreams. As you've probably gathered by now, the Backrooms is a multi-layered exodimension, with each layer exhibiting its own unique look, ecology, environment, and anomalous properties, though some levels have similarities, especially early on. Pipe dreams, as the name suggests, are a series of tunnels, firing off in every direction, and held together by an immense number of pipes of all shapes and sizes. When the office worker arrives here, he can immediately feel his claustrophobia setting in, though he's slightly more relieved that he's no longer being chased by a gang of faceless children with knives. He takes a second to steady himself, breathing in and out as much as he can in this dark, humid space. He takes the almond water container out of his pocket and treats himself to a quick swig that mellows him out slightly. Now, he has to keep moving. The office worker begins walking down the length of the first tunnel, trying to avoid the occasional jets of boiling hot steam that burst from the many hissing pipes. Just as he's beginning to feel a pang of regret for not grabbing one of the soldiers' machine guns, he spots a person crouching in the tunnel in front of him, hunched over in what looks like terrible pain. The office worker approaches more cautiously this time, knowing that this awful place has pulled tricks on him before with things that seemed human, but very much weren't. The man on the ground, through groans of pain, begs the office worker to stay back. Something terrible is happening. He's changing. The office worker watches in horror as the human being crouching before him begins transforming into something altogether more monstrous. His skin becomes raw and red, blotching and bloating, until it looks less like human skin and more like hamburger meat. His eyes become large and goggling. His teeth sharpen and grow out at unnatural angles. His fingernails extend into long, ragged claws. He's given in to a terrible backrooms affliction known as the wretched cycle, becoming a being known as a wretch. Anyone who loses all hope in the backrooms undergoes the possibility of becoming a wretch. The best cures are to keep your spirits high, drink plenty of almond water, and of course, stay away from already infected wretches at all costs. The office worker definitely doesn't need to be told that third one. He turns and runs for his life as the wretch gurgles and screams deranged nonsense behind him. The office worker isn't enjoying his new life in the back rooms, from paranoia-inducing sounds to wall-warping clawed beasts, to skin-stealing monstrosities to human-like hounds, to knife-wielding faceless children, to the horrors of the wretches. And to think, he's only got an infinity of other levels to go. Check out the DrBob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of DrBob, like SCP-674, The Exposition Gun Makes Nintendo Real Life.